Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is Monday, October the 7th, 2024. And I want to talk today about form and structure. For millennia now, people have needed the structure and form. The form is created by a need and desires. We have to have a way to accomplish what it is that we see that we're about at this level of development. And for the last at least couple thousand years, we've been in a position to where we needed religion and that structure of the church on a physical level. We needed that to nurture our limited view of ourselves. As our intention to grow increases, then that form and structure is changing to meet the developing needs. I grew up in church, and so I got familiar with that form. I didn't know what to call it. It was a form and structure that complemented and supported where most folks were in their process of development. And of course I needed more than that, and I wound up, at the age of 42, I wound up at the School of Metaphysics, where I began to see things in an expanded way because I did the concentration exercise and meditation and so forth, which expanded my consciousness. As Einstein pointed out, that a problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. So the structure that is necessary or complementary for the adolescent stage of development is much different than the structure that is needed above that and beyond that. And so this is why you can see at the present time, if you're observing, you can see that the older structure of religion and the church system and all of that is beginning to crumble because we're outgrowing the need for it, because more and more people are finding the adult stage of development, which goes beyond religion and politics. So that it is our next level of development has to do with personal responsibility and seeing how I influence the world, how I influence the community I'm in, how I influence the structure that I'm currently using. Well, for instance, I use the structure at the YMCA, and it has a lot to do with health, and also has a lot to do with my need to communicate on a different and from within myself about my own development. And I'm able to reach out and help people just as soon as yesterday. Every day I'll be able to help a couple of people in a way that I wasn't expecting. So I'm pulling forward. I'm seeing the structure develop that supports the form that I need for my current level of development. And this is my world as it is coming into play. And each person, if you'll observe this, you'll see that whatever a person is going toward and what they're developing in themselves, what they need, the structure will be developing around them, or the structure that they need to use, the form and structure that they need to use will be in the process of development. In other words, and this reminds me one time at the School of Metaphysics, the headquarters, there was a big crowd, and Jerry Rothmill was taking questions on the Bible and so forth, as he did on occasion. And somebody asked him the question that you think the earth is going away, or what's the condition of the earth? And his answer was that he said it would be here as long as people had a need for it. And this is what he was talking about, the structure and form that takes on. I understand what he meant by that, because I can see things changing to complement the desires and the development that people are in the midst of. And so at the same time we see a lot of chaos and turmoil in the world, there's also, if you look deeper than that, there's a groundswell of opportunity for, and more people are grasping the need and the desire to develop more of themselves and to go deeper spiritually. And if you listen to 100 people talk about it, you'll hear 100 different ways they're approaching it. So each one of those is gathering around them the structure that they need. And the need is what prompts the development of the structure that will to be used. So when a person says, I want this, and they start wondering how they're going to get it, well, as they lean into it, as they begin to put more and more attention on how to, well, the structure and form is developing from their need and their desire. So each person, you cannot compare one with another, but each person has their own structure that is designed by the universe for them. And I go back to something I said earlier on another talk, that each person has everything they need. So the process is, if you step out and go forward, you'll begin to see it as you go. If you expect to see it before you begin, then you're going to see what you've always seen, and that's all. And this is where religion comes into play, in politics, is trying to keep things the same by pointing the finger at each other and so forth. You're getting nowhere. Because if you're hung up on just right and wrong, there's nowhere to go with that. The only place you can go is when you say sincerely within yourself, how can I? How can I? Not how can I make them? How can I? And so as each person gains that understanding and starts to work with it, you're going to see the structure changing. And I've been seeing this for years, the structure of religion as we know it, the church system is beginning to crumble. And it's time for that, because it is time for us to rise above religion and politics and so forth and get into something real. And so as enough people rise to this level, the foolishness of war will become evident. because it's pointless to try to change someone else. And this is what wars are about. And the wars are fought mostly about religious differences. And so people are hung up in the adolescent portion of development rather than looking to go within farther, deeper, to discover more of themselves, which is the only reason we're here, to discover more of themselves. Can you imagine how peaceful this planet will be? If you want peace, then look for people who are promoting peace. Look at the School of Metaphysics, who is responsible for seeing that the Universal Peace Covenant is read every morning at 7:30 Central Time on Zoom, and anybody can take part of that, and you can get a clear idea of what peace means, and it starts with you. And look at people that are doing some fantastic work, like Dr. Barbara Condren, and Terence Lamont Bellows. He's the Peace Covenant. He's the Peace Ambassador for the School of Metaphysics. So look at, when you start thinking of how can I develop peace in myself, or how can I promote peace in the world, then you will begin to see how that structure and form will start to develop where you can use it. And this brings up another phrase: use it or lose it. Now, using it is being productive with it. Losing it is being unproductive with it, so that it begins to crumble. That's what I was talking about originally here. The form and structure begins to disintegrate if there's a misuse. And we've reached a tipping point in the religious type scale where there's not enough people yet who have stepped out to prove what they believe. And if they'll do that, they'll begin to see more of what is rather than what's supposed to be or what's not supposed to be, and that sort of thing. And so we can rise above the adolescence of spirituality into adulthood and take responsibility for creating the structure and form that we need. And I can see it in my own life. I've developed a structure that was not present 20 years ago. There's a particular structure I use at the YMCA that I created. It's a form. It's a simple thing. There's a coffee area, and whenever I'm through with all the exercise and steam room and so forth that I need, I'll usually sit and have a cup of tea in the coffee area. And I started this several years ago for the explicit purpose of allowing someone who needed to talk to come talk to me. And I've seen that structure and form take place, and there are people coming to me. And word gets around, and people know they can come to me. And some people are afraid to come to me because of that reason. But just yesterday, I was able to help a couple of people that was unexpected. And these things are always surprises, but they're pleasant surprises. But it's a structure, it's a form and structure that I created deliberately so that I have a way to serve. And there's a selfish motive here too, because I have diabetes, and diabetes is caused from holding back on serving. And so I had to identify what it is I had to give and start to give it. And so I'll eventually overcome the diabetic syndrome, if you will, because in order for a complete healing to occur, the attitude that caused the problem needs to be changed. So I'm in the process of changing that. And I created this structure at the YMCA so that I could use it. I created that. The universe gives to me what I want. It allows the structure to form around me that surrounds me that I can use. And whatever your desire is for your life, you will be able to create a form and structure for that. But as long as you're dependent on political circumstances or religious affiliations, you're still in adolescence. So the desire to go deeper will start some things into motion for you. Will begin to create a different structure for you. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.